All right, guys, what's going on? And welcome back to BBZ Poker. We have got now 5 top mistakes that amateurs and mid-stakes pros are making. Okay, so this one's always a fun one to try to think about, try to get into. I get asked this type of question on stream all the time, and it feels like I can never really do it service because I'm trying to 5-bet with kings or trying to 4-bet bluff with ace-5 suited or something. So I always feel like I'm distracted. I think this is just a better place to answer the question, so here we go. Number 1 is playing too tight or not aggressive enough. So this is a huge part of the game. There's a big trick for dealing with these types of spots, which is to ask yourself the question, like, if I have a strong hand, how do I bluff? And so I'll give you a couple quick examples. So one of the spots that's most asked about on stream or in the YouTube highlights that we have is like there will be some hand where I shove 30 big blinds. Okay, so someone raises from middle position or something, and I shove 30 big blinds with Jack 10 suited, or 30 big blinds with ace 5 suited, or something along those lines. In a spot kind of like this, right? You can picture something along those lines. And people are always like freaking out. They're like, why'd you jam 32 big blinds with that hand? Like, why'd you re-steal like 30 big blinds with Jack 10 suited? Like, what's going on? Why are you doing that? And it's really simple. Like, I'll just, we can just ask the basic question, right? What do you do in this spot with ace king offsuit? What do you do in this spot with 10s? Or maybe 9s, depending on what position the guy's in, right? So, like, think about it. If you have ace king offsuit with 30 big blinds and you're out of position, are you going to 3-bet call? Some of you might, but a lot of you will probably just shove. A lot of you will probably just shove with 10s. And so this is just a really convenient pre-flop example of a spot where, you're re-stealing all the time with just way too strong of a range. And you need to make sure that you're offsetting this range with some bluffs, okay? And so that's what I'm trying to do in that spot. Whether or not I'm doing it well, poorly, too much, not enough, that's on me, and I need to figure that out. But that's just an example, right? And so I get asked that question all the time, and in that exact spot, and so I thought this was a good spot to try to answer that. Number 2, near and dear to my heart, because I am a purebred calling station, and I love it, is people who just fold too much and don't call enough. And so we'll just do a quick math exercise, and you can find more of this in the BBZ Intro to Quantitative Strategies video on BBZPoker.com. But if your opponent were to bet the river to a quarter pot, for example, so you're the in-position player, get to the river, and they bet a quarter pot. Your defending strategy will be 80% in a spot like this. Now, you can raise, you can call, you can do whatever, but let's say you've been playing mostly pretty passively. So maybe this is a spot where you checked all the way down to the river. So, check, check, flop, check, check, turn, get to the river, he bets a quarter pot. And now what? Call a lot. I mean, you can't raise. Like, what are you going to raise with? Why'd you check back the flop and the turn and now you're raising? Like, well, how does that make sense, right? So mostly, what are you going to do? Call, because we're a calling station. We're going to call 80% of the time. I mean, we're going to have some component that raises, but the lion's share, right? The backbone of what we do to counter this bet size, we call. Now, again, you can find more on the website to try to deal with that specifically, but people just don't understand that. And so they see me call against these really small bets with really wide ranges, and they're freaking out on the stream, or they're freaking out in the YouTube chat. So they're calling me a fish in the comment section. And it's just look, bro, I'm trying to play the game properly. I'm just trying to play the game properly. There are some principles that govern how to play no limit hold'em, and calling a lot happens to be one of them. So that's what I'm doing. And if you want to play the game in some different way, be my guest. I'm available on partypoker.com. I play all the time, and you can try to take my money. Lots of luck. So number 3, underestimating variance or volatility. So most people just don't have any clue about what kind of swings they should be anticipating. Even professional players, when I work with them at first, they just they go on some swing. I listen to it, and they're it's really bad, and I don't know what to do. I don't know if I should move down. And the first question I'll ask, usually, I actually asked this question this morning in a coaching session, is, have you spent some time with Prime Dope? Prime Dope used to be called Poker Dope. It's a free tool. Okay, I have nothing at all to do with it. It's just a helpful tool, so I'm recommending it. And they almost always say no. They almost always say no. Or they say they're kind of lying, and they say oh, sort of, I've used it once, and I'm just you're lying. so they haven't used it, and so they massively underestimate variance and they don't know what's possible. And so like they're kind of narrating this swing to me, and I'm just like, bro, it's standard, like beyond standard. Like it's so standard that you shouldn't be. It's not feedback even. Like you can lose 75 buy-ins in tournaments. It's okay. Like doesn't mean anything. And like if you isolate it, if you break your actual downswing down, which I recommend in one of my other videos, if you actually break your downswing down, a lot of what you lost is actually in like at the higher part of your curve. You really only lost like 20 buy-ins. Relax. It means nothing. But they just have no idea like what's possible. And so they massively underestimate variance or volatility, which leads to misallocation of capital because they play too big, like bigger than they can afford. They take too much risk. And they go on emotional swings they shouldn't be going on because they're really disappointed in themselves for absolutely no reason. In the sense that like this swing is totally plausible for even the biggest of winners in the games that they're playing. So there's no reason to be upset. Like why are you upset? Calm down. So I would say that that's a huge one, particularly for like the psychological warfare that they put themselves through, psychological hell, whatever you want to call it. Fourth one, and this one's a big one for me because I don't really like this type of person, is like people who assume they're entitled to win. So it's really common, like, you want to win, you want to be able to play poker in your pajamas. Like, it doesn't, you could take this to something else, to a different endeavor. Like, you got to earn it. I don't care what it is. You have to earn it. And particularly in poker, which is like, it's competitive, like if you're competing for the prize pool, right? Like there's a tournament, there's $10,000 to first, you're playing it, you want first, I'm playing it, I want first. Why do you deserve to beat me? Why? Like, why do you deserve to win? Why do you deserve to beat the guy next to you? What are the reasons, not excuses or like, anything else? Like, what are the reasons that you have for why you should win and he should lose? What are the reasons, right? And so people just assume that like, oh, I won in like 1999. And it's like, cool, bro. You know what I mean? Like, why do you deserve to win now? Like, what are you doing? Like you've got these killers in some instances who are just like studying all the time. They're putting in tons of work. They're grinding it out. They're watching, they're getting videos from BBZpoker.com. They're drowning themselves in content. They're trying to get better and like they're after it, right? And those guys, like, that sense of entitlement isn't really there, right? But you have other guys who won money 3 years ago, 5 years ago, 10 years ago, 20 years ago. And they're just like, they're clinging to this like one victory or these like 5 tournaments that they won where they won a ton of money. It could be $1 million. I mean, I've seen it like in all forms, right? I've seen people who've won $1 million plus who have this problem. And I say it's a problem because like that was 10 years ago that they won $1 million plus. And today, like they're not studying, they're not doing anything to deserve to win, but they still feel like they're owed something. And you can just tell in their language and stuff. So assuming that people are entitled to win is a huge mistake, that people make. I would say it's more old school pros probably than like, amateurs or something or mid stakes players. But like, I would definitely say like old school pros, particularly ones that won a ton of money, they carry this like entitlement, like, oh, like if I play, I'll win. It's like, I mean, like, I don't even believe that. Like, I've studied tons, and I don't believe that, like, if I play, I'll just win. Like, I have to keep studying. I have to keep earning it every single day. I have to step in there and, like, rip out a win rate. Like, I have to rip out an edge in order to earn it, to deserve it. Like, it's not just going to be handed to you. Like, because you won some money in the past, no one cares about that. No one cares what you did in 1999, bro. So, all right, the next one is not studying enough, which kind of goes hand in hand with the one before that, but I am BBZ Poker. So not studying enough had to be on there and deserved its own slot. I just don't think people study enough. Particularly when you're at the earlier parts of your career, the return on time invested in studying is extraordinarily high. Like extraordinarily high. The less you know, the easier it is to learn stuff. Makes sense, right? The more you know, the more time, like for example, for me, I have to spend maybe a little bit more time, not that much more time because I still suck, but I have to spend a little bit more time figuring out where I'm weak and how to fix it and how to get better at it than maybe someone who's just started playing the game today, where like if they get a hand chart, like it's like mind blowing. And if they then get a pre-flop 3-bet, someone breaks down pre-flop 3-betting and how it works, mind blown again. And they learn how to 4-bet and which combos go into 4-bet ranges. Mind blown again. They learn about offsetting value bets and pairing value bets and bluffs so that they can have an unpredictable betting range. and not making sure that they're not overweight value or overweight bluff. So they learn how the ratios work in certain spots. Like all of these things are just like boom, boom, boom. These big moments where they learn stuff. And it's awesome. It's exciting. But the better you get, the more work you're going to have to put in to try to get those types of insights. And so in the earlier parts of your career, like the less you know, the bigger the return on your time for studying. And I just think people overlook it and kind of misallocate their time to too heavily towards playing at the earlier stages of their career. So those are my top 5 mistakes amateurs and mid-stakes pros are making. We've got playing too tight or not aggressive enough. We've got not calling enough or folding too much. We've got underestimating variance and volatility, assuming people are entitled to win, and not studying enough. Those are my 5. All right? See you guys soon. Make sure you follow me on BBZ Poker. Talk to you guys later. Bye-bye.